All right, you're listening to another episode of Tyler Talks to Strangers. Pardon me, I'm fresh out of the shower or fresh out of the treadmill from a run, so I'll be sweaty this whole episode. But we'll do what we can here with the time with Reese here. So this is the podcast where I attempt to better understand the world around me by understanding those who inhabit it with me. So everyone has a story. I just have so many questions. So let's kind of jump right off into it to start here, Reese. You had to describe your life story in about 2 to 3 minutes or less. So name if you want to tell me your name, where you're from, and then the 3 to 5 bullet points of how you ended up in a Zoom chat with me today. How would you do it?
Yeah, my name is Reese Carter. I live in the Atlanta metro on the north end of things. Been here for better part of 20 plus years. So beautiful wife, 2 kids, 2 boys. Which is a whole strain in itself. And yeah, just to have a bullet point for it all, I'm just a really intentional dude. So so to come across the question of who wants to join me on a podcast about Tyler Talks with Strangers, I was like, man, I'm hooked in. Let's go. But yeah, we crossed paths in Order of Man and Iron Council, and it's an easy conversation to have with somebody like yourself because you've sat down alone in weird, dark places and wrote out your own life story, and so
Right.
we've got common ground. You've wrestled with yourself, and just the same as me, so we can have an easy conversation. There's a level of trust built up there. So yeah, that's pretty much it in a nutshell, man.
Awesome. Good start there. Okay. And then anything exciting on the horizon here? Maybe 3 to 5 years. Where do you see your story then?
Man, just trying not to do stupid things that get me hurt and killed.
Okay. It sounds like you have
Yeah,
experience with that or something. Biking or something? What's your danger of choice?
It could be anything.
Yeah.
My wife left the house the other day and said, make sure you don't attempt any PRs in the garage without anybody there. So yeah, she knows that I'm up for something stupid all the time.
That's awesome.
But I'm like we just live out here in North Atlanta area. Got a real intentional life, love our community, and I don't know. I think that's right about it in a nutshell, man. So okay. Yeah, I'm anxious to dig in the questions and find out some more. Maybe I'll know more about myself and get to ask you the same thing.
Absolutely. I think that that is the purpose of this, is just to kind of learn about ourselves, grow, and become the best version ultimately. So first question. Some of these are ripped from a big fan of Tim Ferriss. So he's got a podcast. He asks some of his guests these questions. So first couple will be in that vein. First one's gonna be, what is the book or books you've given most as a gift and why? Or what are the 1 to 3 books that have greatly influenced your life?
I don't know that I've been quite the gift giver.
Not your love language. That's fine.
Yeah, but I'm quick to refer all day long.
Okay.
I did recently buy a young man a couple of books to dig into, and they're really not my go-tos. They just happen to be the go-tos for his conversation.
Okay.
It was by Russell Brunson. I think it was Funnel Secrets. Just basically getting your story and putting your story out there just to help him with his business. But that's the one that I bought the most recently and gave to somebody. But I've recommended too many times, and I need to get a referral code for it is really what I need to do.
Right. Now we're talking.
But Sovereignty by Ryan Michler, game changer for my life. Kazone by Craig Groeschel.
Okay.
Because it helped me take that purpose, put some biblical backbone to it, and justify a lot of things for me. And then hands down, Extreme Ownership, Jocko. Those 3 right there. If I went back and I had a referral code for them, I'd be able to buy a sandwich.
So, yeah, exactly. Chipotle, Subway.
We're not going to Bali, but we will have a sandwich for the flight.
Yeah, that's I do like the idea of like, what have you given the most? Because that does say a lot, I guess, if it's something that you've purchased specifically. Because I mean, to me, books are just like it's like an idea virus kind of thing in a good way. It could be a idea
Yeah.
virus. So you're trying to implant some thought into other people.
Mhm.
So that says a lot when you actually purchase it to give it to someone.
I need to get a little better intentionality around it and just go, bro, here you go. It's going to
Right.
show up on your Kindle. There you go. Oh, you
Right.
want a paperback? I'll send you that one. I just need it on auto ship though. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I would
But
say
those are the referrals for sure.
anything by David Eagleman. He's a neuroscientist, a lot of
Do
TED
not know
Talks.
anything by that name.
Yeah. He's the author, David Eagleman, and then he's written a lot of books, but I would say I've given the book some 40 Tales of the Afterlife. It's a really short book. It's kind of like a nightstand book. It's just a fun exploration of, different cultures' ideas of what happens in the afterlife. And it's kind of a fun read kind of thing. So I've definitely given that to the most people, but I would say anything about Malcolm Gladwell has probably influenced my life the most. So
Huge. What's the one? It's been a couple of years.
David and Goliath.
No, Malcolm Gladwell.
Outliers.
Outliers was good, but there was one that was before it. Was it Spark?
Blink or Tipping Point?
Blink.
Okay.
Blink and Tipping Point. Both of those were very powerful for me.
Yeah, I think anything by him is generally pretty good. His podcast, little let down, but his writing, I think in general, is pretty good.
Yeah, he's a little dry, but if you could put a better voice on the Audible, because I think he reads it too, and it's kind of a sleeper.
True.
So
yeah,
it's better to read it from print, and then you can put your own James Earl Jones with it.
Yes, yeah. I think he's the GOAT of narration by far.
Right?
James Earl Jones, even surpassing Freeman and David Attenborough. I mean, just James Earl Jones in general. Just it's hard to beat that. So, okay. Question 2 is going to be, let's see, if you had a gigantic billboard anywhere with anything on it, metaphorically speaking, getting a message out to millions or billions of people, what would you say on your billboard of choice, and where would you put it?
Billboard of choice. I'm a big fan of taking Bible verses,
okay,
the ones that show the anarchist, if you will, of it, of like, you thought it was supposed to be this meek and mild approach, but when Jesus said, I didn't come to bring peace but to bring a sword, I was like, oh, that's that's kind of epic. So those kind of things, I like to shake things up and go, you thought it was this, but I like to grab it by the short hairs. So what was it? And with that, Proverbs 24:10. If you show yourself lacking courage on the day of distress, you weren't prepared.
Okay. So you
and
should have already lived your life to that extent where you have no question.
Yeah, it's like if you're thinking that I'm going to come in and bail you out in a pinch, why didn't you prepare? That kind of notion. So I'd say that, and I'd put it like right on a common road. Okay. I don't know, on an exit ramp. So people look at it when they're sitting in traffic
somewhere in Georgia. Yeah. Okay.
So cool. Yeah. Oh, and but I wanted to pull this up too.
Sure.
This book right here by Kevin Dutton, The Wisdom of Psychopaths. Yeah, that one's creeping into my number 4 book.
I just listened. I think it's The Art of Manliness. Brett McKay interviewed him.
Interviewed him,
and I was like, I was very shocked. I thought that was a very interesting book. How he compared, was it Saul? Yeah,
from Saul to Paul.
Yeah,
when he had that conversion.
Right.
I've been like sucked in ever since then. Yeah. And those kind of things like there, you think it's this pretty picture, but it's not.
He's a huge psychopath. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he was. And it's funny too, because I took on that. Did you take the test?
I did not take the test. I took the test. I was listening in it. I was in the car. I was like, I can't write down stuff right now. So I should have did it when I got home, but I have not yet.
Yeah.
What was your score?
It's pretty high.
In the 20s? In the 20s?
It's 22.
Yeah, I think it goes up to 30 or something, but yeah, that's pretty high. Yeah. So
we just had dinner. We were having dinner with my wife and kids, and I was like, okay, fun fact, I took this test and here's what it looked like.
You should give it to them as well.
Yeah. I'm about to.
Yeah, that's too funny. Okay.
But but just that whole conversation is like
Right.
treating it like a spectrum. Everybody's got
Mm-hmm.
some things. Now, can you flip it on and off?
Mm-hmm. Yes, the
For sure.
utility of it. Yeah, the
The
wisdom and
utility of it.
utility of when to become that. Yes, I think we all do need that kind of tendency, I guess. But cool. We'll go through some fun ones here. This one's gonna be, what is the best thing to put between two slices of bread?
Um, oh wow. Chicken salad.
Chicken salad.
A,
Okay,
a good chicken salad,
that's good. I
not
like
too
that.
heavy on the mayonnaise. The chicken's coming like off of like a rotisserie chicken from a
Okay.
grocery store. So you got it in a
Oh,
pinch. You didn't work too hard at it.
didn't work too hard.
Um,
Okay.
you put it in the chopper, you season it
Right.
with my friend James Percival has a killer poultry rub.
Okay.
Sprinkle it with that. Oh, it's so
Dang.
good.
Okay. So you're
Um,
not a standard PB&J guy. You're a chicken guy.
yeah, I haven't had a man. Now I've got to have a PB&J because I haven't had one in years. I need one, I guess.
Okay.
Maybe that's what's wrong with my life right now. Is I
That's
haven't had a
right, right.
PB&J.
You are a psychopath if you don't like
I
PB&J.
am.
That's why you scored
uh,
so high.
I guess so. I think I had there was a past life that was a staple for a meal ingredient,
Hmm.
and I think I kind of burned myself out of it. So
Right. Okay. Next one is gonna be, let's see. Tell me one thing you habitually overspend on, but you don't regret at all.
habitually overspend on coffee.
Coffee. Okay. That was another question I had here. What's your Starbucks order? Is there a specific, do you
Um,
do Starbucks? What do you take?
that's a cold brew with half and half.
A cold brew with okay.
Grande cold
Okay.
brew with half and half. And it's kind of weird. There was 3 stores this past weekend that didn't have cold brew ready to go. Like
Hmm.
they didn't prepare it for whatever reason. I thought that was weird trend. So it made me rethink. So it would be um, an iced Americano.
Mm, yeah.
Um, and again, with a shot of half and half just to knock the edge off of it.
Gotcha.
Oh,
What
iced Americano with an extra shot. There you
extra
go.
shot? Okay.
Or the cold brew, but cold brew first.
When did the coffee train start in your life? Was that college? Was
Oh
that
no, that
18?
was Air Force, man, way
Air
back in the day.
Force? Oh wow. Okay. Interesting. Well, I didn't know you served. I'm
Yeah,
working
man.
on a joint military Air Force and Army base right now. So
Where at?
in Washington, Camp Murray, so
Okay,
just south of Tacoma,
nice.
Washington, JBLM. So it's been great. It's my favorite job I've had in physical therapy so far. So all the guys are awesome, and we just had our drill week and everything. How long did you serve for?
6 years.
6 years. Okay.
And then got out and then worked with the Corps of Engineers.
Engineers. All right. And you're still doing that today?
Um, not with them, but
Okay.
still building
Still
and
building.
designing and just watching things come out of the ground and being fascinated by it all.
Oh, nice. Okay, that's fair enough. Yeah, the ground is
Yeah.
very fascinating. Okay. Let's see. If you could wake up anywhere in the world tomorrow, open your eyes and you're in that city, that town, that country, where would you want to be?
On a beach, Mexico.
Mexico. Okay, we're talking Cancun, we're talking West Coast, Ensenada,
It would be on the East Coast,
East
down
Coast.
around Cozumel,
Ah, okay.
a little bit
Very
remote.
cool.
Um,
Yeah.
I would know where a resort is, but I wouldn't go to it.
Right.
Um,
Okay. Fair enough. I have been to Cozumel. I had my Ironman triathlon in Cozumel. So
did you?
I experienced Cozumel as very traumatic, and I'm very tired when I think about Cozumel. It's not relaxing. It's mostly like,
What was the Ironman like? Was it a loop around the island?
oh yes, exactly. It was the run was like a, was it a 4 mile like loop kind of thing down and back by the golf course, and then the bike was 3 laps around the whole island there. So um quite the time. It was incredibly rainy that day,
Wow.
intensely humid, obviously, like it is normally, but all things considered, no flat tires, good current for the swim going for us. So it ended up being a pretty good race. But yes, I just, every time I think of Cozumel, I think I'm very tired and dehydrated. So it was a good
It'd be
time though.
easy to do.
Yeah.
It, we took a cruise um, we took a cruise. I want to say it had to have been April
Mm-hmm.
Time frame, and it was the whole family. And we got to Cozumel and didn't want to do the typical excursion type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we got off the boat and saw somebody saying, "Hey, come rent our dune buggies." And so we did. We rented a dune buggy and just got in it and just saw on the map, it was like, "Hey, this place runs in a circle and let's just go have an adventure."
Right.
So just drove the dune buggy around the road and go, "Oh wait, there's tacos over here." So we got up and drank beers and tacos, and it was just epic. And the boys thought that was the coolest thing.
Right.
You know, we've done things that might have had an excursion with it, but they don't talk about them like they do when you get those one-off adventures.
Okay.
We went to the Bahamas and did a similar thing. And I had a project in the Bahamas that was for a guy that was way over on the other end of the island. Nobody was ever going to take us anything. So we just said, "Hey, let's jump in a cab and go see this project that I was working on virtually." And the guy actually happened to have a tavern there, and just a random place of, just a bar and fried fish food place, and they called it the Poop Deck. And the boys were, they'll tell you stories about the Poop Deck. One, it's called the Poop Deck. Who's gonna be upset with that?
Yeah.
So I think they were probably 7 and 12 at the time. So yeah, poop jokes at that age, man. I mean, you're the king if you've got those.
Exactly.
So, but yeah, just jumping in a cab and going to see what happens, and those kind of adventures. Those are the things that the family remembers. Will they remember a tour? Maybe, but not that one-off that they didn't know what was going to happen next.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome. I think.
And when we're talking about the dune buggy, like the thing that always comes up, and they're like, "Yeah, we were eating tacos on the beach, and this chicken came up out of nowhere and just started walking up." They remember the chicken. So I don't know. Yeah, those kind of things. Those are the things that just to be intentional to make things happen like that are the things that make memories for sure.
Impromptu adventures. I love that.
So yeah, I've and if we joke about it, but I'm kind of quasi serious. Like, if my wife passed away, I'm just like, what else is left? I'm just going to go to Mexico and get a bike and a cooler and just go live on the beach and just
incredible.
That's
a great thought.
That's it. I mean, it's kind of
morbid,
but
it's a terrible thought. I changed my mind. It's a terrible thought. The beach is nice,
but there's a plan.
But what precedes the beach is my wife died, which is horrible. Yeah, so
it's horrible. But there's a plan in place.
You have a plan. It's all about having plans, because life is like that. You gotta have multiple different things.
Yeah. So big fat tire bicycle, and I'm gonna be a beachcomber.
Beach life. Okay, let's get.
Where's your remote?
You know what? I would do something. If I had to do something like that, I would do something in probably New Zealand. I've been there once. I would retire in New Zealand in a heartbeat if I could. Something about the people. Australia was amazing as well. Got to study abroad 5 months there. So just the easygoing nature of that side of the world.
What do you study in Australia?
I was doing biology. They still have a pretty good anatomy program and human physiology. So I was doing mostly that. I took one guitar class because why not, right? You're abroad. So did some guitar, did some anatomy and some prereqs for grad school. But yeah, best time of my life for sure. So every time I think about Australia, I'm just like, it's like a magical.
Where at in Australia specifically?
Newcastle. It's about 2 hours north of Sydney by train on the East Coast, the Central Coast. And then above that is Brisbane, the Gold Coast, and Surfers Paradise. And
people don't understand how big that island is.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And they go, "Oh, I was in Australia." It's like, that doesn't say anything.
There's so much I didn't see. I didn't see Uluru, like they're like Yosemite kind of thing. They're a big national park. I didn't see Perth on the west. I didn't see even Adelaide. So a lot I could see. I did see Tassie, a little small island, and Melbourne and Cairns, Queenstown, Great Barrier Reef. So I did quite a bit, but I mean, yeah, there's always going to be more. So any of those beaches, I could see myself kicking back and being a happy camper for sure. Is
that a plan?
Let's jump into some of the deep questions here. for the final, whatever we got, 20 so minutes. First one's going to be, if you can think of one, what is one false belief that you've had that you eventually changed your mind about? Anything in the recent past or?
Yeah, actually, if it just came down to theology, really, probably over a lot of studying over probably the past couple of months, actually,
Okay.
just to be bold. And if anybody tries to tell you and kind of inflict their faith on you and just call bullshit on it, that for me to have the revelation myself is like, you've got to read it and get the revelation for yourself. You can't live on somebody else's revelation.
Okay. Right.
If I hear something, I'll take note and then go study it myself, but I'm not drinking their Kool-Aid until I've read it and got my own revelation out of it. And I'm pretty unapologetic like that.
So that's probably your rub with the Catholic priest and church kind of program, is they're kind of dictating most of it, like more historically, right? Not as much today, but that was always kind of the rub between Protestants and Catholics, right? Was who can interpret the word of God, right? So that's interesting though. Yeah.
And I'm gotten pretty confident in putting that back on other guys too. You know, the men's work that we're doing, that faith conversation comes up a lot more than people want to recognize. And for me to be a mentor and a leader in those roles, I've had to push back on the guys to go, you got to get your own revelation. Don't come to me to ask for an answer. I'll tell you how I interpret it, but I don't ever want to be the guy that told you this is what it's supposed to be. So, yeah, pretty unapologetic there. That's been a big shift. Okay. And I've been one to want to be right. My ego is no different than anybody else's. And there's a lot of things that I wanted to be right. And I've learned to humble myself and go, not only do I have to get my own revelation, so do you.
Right.
So yeah, that would be it. Read it for yourself, learn it for yourself, live it for yourself.
Yeah. Okay. Very cool. Yeah, I think that's a big step. It's just about, like you said, I think that's like the biggest sign of maturity and being an adult, is just being able to say, I was wrong about something, right? Or change your mind based on new evidence.
Well, I've never been wrong.
Right.
I've been mistaken a few times, but I was never wrong.
Exactly. It was a little murky, and then I saw clearer, and I was actually right the whole time.
I was actually right.
Yeah, that's always a big one for me. Is if someone could admit that, then I'm like, okay, you're a good dude. I could roll with you, So, the next deep question is going to be, what do you think the future will be like? Do you think it'll be better or worse than the present?
Bro, I'm the optimist. I think we have a great life and a great world. I think we've got some really jacked up individual people that are trying to say otherwise.
Okay, right.
I'm not a scholar of history, but I'm very aware of history. Of just even watching historical movies and documentaries and looking at it and going, that life sucked.
Right.
We don't have to live like that. So it's definitely gotten, even if you just watched World War II documentaries, we're talking a span of what was that, 40s, 20s, 60, 70, 80, not a long time over things. And we're so far ahead of things. It's better.
Yeah.
And it's getting better.
Right.
So especially when people want to go down the rabbit holes of social justice and everything like that. I mean, I could stand back and look, that time sucked.
Yeah.
And it has gotten better. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. But you can see it's on an upswing. So yeah, we're in a much better time. And I can only imagine that it is getting better. Not to perfection, not to utopia by any means. But I think people are actually a lot better than we try and give them credit for.
Absolutely. What do you think is the biggest threat to our continual progress? So you mentioned maybe
divisiveness.
Kind of like
everybody looking and trying to, say that there's a boogeyman around the corner. That doesn't help anything. Yeah, just injecting fear in the divisiveness is just not helpful at all.
Yeah, I think yeah, it'll be interesting now that we're having somewhat of an AI revolution, chat GPT and these kind of things. I think the potential for, more disinformation and all that kind of stuff to proliferate is pretty huge. But
I'm not intimidated by it, though.
yeah, I think there's a lot of progress that could be made with those things as well. So it's like any tech, it could be good or bad. So we've
Right.
navigated quite a lot in our past. So I think ultimately we'll get through it, but there'll be some learning curves, along
There's
the
a
way.
lot of people that are working in spaces that
Mm,
that are doing some really interesting and great things, and even
mm,
in some, it, they don't want to admit it, but they're doing it.
yeah.
Like I was watching a demo for a guy that was working, and the speed and the formulation of things of his research. So it he has a Bible software,
Okay.
and it's able to scour thousands upon thousands of books and translations and
Mm,
all these things,
sure.
commentaries and Bible translations themselves, and stories about the commentaries about these things, just libraries upon libraries. And he can spit out all this information. Like when you go and click on a word, and then it comes
Mm-hmm.
back and goes, "Oh, by the way, we've got all this information here."
Mm,
And I didn't challenge him. I just asked a question, and I was like, is there going to be a time when you can go and have those things start to formulate a thought around
yeah.
so basically it makes the commentaries obsolete.
Yes.
And really all they'd have to do is go, hey, here's an AI generated thought on it. It's flagged,
Mm,
computer generated this,
right.
but it's way faster than this here. And you could take it with a grain of salt.
Mm-hmm. That
It's
would be
like,
good if you had a
hey, we
disclaimer.
gave you this phrase here, but there's actually 6 translations that it can go in any number of ways. So
Right.
popular consensus says it probably goes down this way. Do you want to go down that rabbit hole further? You
Right.
just, um, they wouldn't admit that it's coming, but it's coming.
It's coming.
Yeah, it's coming.
Yeah. What
Uh,
translation do you gravitate to with your Bible? NIV or
I'm very,
King
very,
James, old school?
um, you know, uh, I was very agnostic and borderline atheist growing up.
Yeah.
And I never understood people's interpretations of these things. And the fact that the book had to be so deciphered, it just made it uncomfortable for me
Mm-hmm.
until I discovered The Message
Oh, okay.
by Eugene Peterson.
Right.
And I know it's maybe a guy and a few other theologians in a conversation, but there was a level of confidence that was there. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just that same way as that AI tag going. It's just one guy's interpretation,
Mm-hmm.
maybe not 100% vetted by panels and panels upon people, but it's the layout that makes the most sense for me.
Right.
So I tend to start there and go, okay, I can get a big 30,000 foot view, and now we'll dig in. And now I can have some context about the whole page that was going on with it.
Okay.
So that's that first version, and then North American Standard.
North American.
Um,
Okay.
just out of recommendation by some other people that were scholars going, hey, the most people vetted this one. It's like, okay, cool, I can
Mm-hmm.
go with that. The jury's out on the fact that, what were those guys doing the night before they that they said this is the way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, well, let's see.
Right.
So yeah, that's it, probably The Message and North American Standard.
Okay. Yep, heard of those too. Very cool. And then next question is going to be, what do you and your partner argue about the most?
The
Any
boys.
recurring themes? The boys? Okay.
The boys.
How to raise them or what specifically?
How to raise them.
Okay.
And she's the nurturer,
Mm,
and uh, I'm the adversary, the one that says make them do hard things so they could
okay.
learn from it. and being on the same page is the thing that probably causes the most tension with it.
Okay.
Yeah, other than that, that's not much.
That's good.
Yeah.
There's the two kids.
Yeah, they're 17 and 13.
Okay, nice. So they're approaching that college age type of thing. So that'll be
Yep.
interesting, I guess, if they stay.
We've got our last year of high school. He was a late turner on the age spectrum, so he's got 1 year left of high school.
Okay.
And so we're navigating that as to hopefully have an exit plan moving out with it. So
Mexico's always an option if you need it.
Mexico's always an
Ship
option.
him to Cozumel, it's fine. He'll figure it out. Get in the
Right.
poop deck in no time. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
That's awesome. Okay. Let's see. Let's go with, how has 2023 been better or worse than 2022?
Has it been?
Up to you. I don't know. Your own life. Do you think it's been better?
Yeah, I don't know that it's, I mean, we had a pretty eventful 2022.
Okay.
And 23 has been a little bit slower pace, but it's only been by choice.
Okay.
So now we've had some good trips out of it this year. I don't think it's any. I think it's pretty much on par.
Okay, that's good.
It's been interesting. It hasn't been without its events, but
yeah. No major deaths or anything crazy this year.
No.
Good.
But it's been good. Yeah, no, that 23 is probably business wise, it's made me rethink who and how I work with them. But I've been able to pivot pretty good, figured out my marketing game and who and how I reach out to. I think people are willing to spend more money. I know things got more expensive, but I think they're at ease with spending more money, and starting to see that I could raise the rates and not have anybody freak out about it. It's coming with expectation.
Yeah.
So no, it's been interesting, man.
That's awesome. This is still mostly construction you're talking about, putting stuff in the ground.
Yeah. I'd say 2022 was a lot of real estate investors. But I've been working lately with a lot of general contractors and handling their design programs for them, so it lets them be a design build, if you will, and just handling those platforms. Cities, COVID made everybody develop online permitting programs, which made everything different for my work. The GCs still don't know how to navigate those things, and I just said I do, and so they're like, dude, just handle it, tell us what we need to pay you. And that's been really good. So I've been marketing really heavy in that direction. Where before I was working with real estate investors, and they were easy to make deals across the hood of a truck. It was like there was a level of trust there. There's like, design what you want and go with it. But things got so expensive, they're not finding properties, so that slows down. Then the private homeowners, their equity goes up, they can afford to reinvest into their properties. And so I'm learning how to watch and forecast the market and go, if this goes up, I can jump back over here and navigate that way. So now it's better, man. It just learning how to look ahead. I can say that each year's probably could get better. If I take a minute to learn how to navigate it, that is.
Yeah. All right. I like that default optimism that you got. That's awesome.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
And then if you could turn the tables on myself and you were in my shoes, you could ask a stranger any question.
You're locked in though. How much? Well, let me back up and ask you how much time you got left on this contract.
5 minutes, 20 seconds. So
No. I mean, being in the service and how much time do you have to go? I've got this much time. You don't have, you're locked into a place.
Yes. I'm working this job until September. That's when this pilot program runs until, and then they're going to potentially renew it for up to 5 years. So at least
will you jump on that 5-year train?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
So
Are you going to retire
retire? What do you mean?
and from the military and just like lock
I'm
in?
not in the military. I'm a civilian.
Oh, you're a
Yeah,
civilian.
civilian
Interesting.
contractor. Yeah,
Okay.
civilian contractor, just working with the military. So, yep, that's the
Oh, that's really interesting.
best of both worlds in my mind. So, but
So
yes,
how long are those stints for?
this one's just for a full year, I guess, or January through September, right? And then it's a pilot program. So they're saying if having a PT and strength coach on the base lowers their injury rates and return to duty and all that. So that's what they're testing this year.
What kind of programming do you subscribe to as far as fitness and PT goes?
There's not really a specific, it depends on what the injury, I suppose, is, whether I have to do more heavy slow resistance for tendinopathies, or it all just depends, what the injury is, I suppose. But mostly active and less modality based, kind of PT in general. So less massage and ice and all that stuff, and more just exercise based.
I drank the CrossFit Kool-Aid probably 5 years ago now.
Okay.
And got my L1 last year
Okay.
For certification, and really gave me a deep dive. And that L1 exposed the fact that CrossFit is not the sport,
right,
but the process.
Yep.
And recognizing that everything can be derived to learning to squat better, learning to lift better, and learning to move better. You could always get down to, when you get back to your core movements, you can resolve so many things like that. And so that was my question, is like,
nice.
How do you see that that methodology working for you, if at all? So
bumping up on the 3-minute mark. So real quick, if you were in my shoes and you could ask a stranger any question in the world, nothing was too shallow or too deep, what would you ask, and what would you want to know about somebody before we kind of wrap up?
What are you doing tomorrow?
Ooh, tomorrow is Tuesday. Intentionally tomorrow.
Why don't you know that?
I'm going to BJJ practice and doing some jujitsu. So I'm trying to learn the combatives.
I guess that's the biggest question, is like, is life happening to you, or are you happening to life?
Yeah.
And so that's why I ask, what are you doing tomorrow?
What are you doing
intentionally?
Tomorrow? Intentionally, yes. No, I try to wake up with a plan. I try to do the morning journal and write what that. I have a list of 10 virtues, humility, strength, intentionality, wisdom, right? And so I try to select one for each morning and then kind of make that the focus of the day and as the kind of prime directive, whatever it is. So I try to do that in the mornings, and then I'll go through work tomorrow, and then I'll end with some rolling practice, and I've been doing that since April. So I kind of have that going for my fitness. I try to work out at least once a day, obviously, and been pretty good to me so far. So 31 and feeling pretty good in life.
Good,
so
man.
Yeah, but yeah,
just be intentional.
CrossFit could be good. Just when you need to tap out. Don't get that ego, like you said.
Remember that first conversation, no PRs when nobody's here.
True.
Yeah, that's where it comes
from. That's where it comes down. That's the only thing I see is the heavy Olympic lifting to fatigue. There's some problems with that.
If you took their course, you'd know that is the exact opposite of what they suggest.
Yes, that's perfect. CrossFit is adapting to the times, which is great. And Jocko had Dave Castro on his podcast. So I listened to that full thing, and I didn't know he was a SEAL, so that was interesting to me. But
Dave, you didn't know that?
I didn't know Dave was a SEAL. No, okay. He's very soft spoken about it, which is cool.
He is.
But yeah, I watched this 2021 documentary about CrossFit and saw the Jocko podcast. So
yeah, the sport and the modalities are two totally different things, and I get it.
Yeah. Well, awesome, Reese. We got about 30 seconds, so I appreciate the time for talking to me today.
This is fun, man. I'm glad you got bold and asked the question to have people join you.
Absolutely. I'm glad it happened. So I thank you to everybody out there listening. I thank you for your support. This is Tyler telling you to go talk to a stranger. Peace.